Arnaud Desplechin's latest film, My Golden Days, is a follow-up to his 1993 film, My Sex Life, or How I Got Into an Argument. That film followed the life of Paul Davis, played by Matthew Almeric, who you probably remember from films like Grand Budapest Hotel or Quantum of Solace, the James Bond film. Almeric returns to the role of Paul Daedalus in this film, and we pick up his character years later as an anthropologist. And this film serves as Paul's origin story. After seeing the film, I suddenly found myself thinking of the Sinatra classic My Way. If you're familiar with the song, you could probably it almost serves like as a companion piece to this film as you just go through the lyrics of say like regrets I had a few, uh, and for which I am certain, and he lived a life that's full, and just thinking of the movie and then thinking of that song is just like they just go together for some reason, and basically the film follows his life. He's about to leave the Kazakhstan, and he runs into a situation where his passport's in question, and as a result, he starts discussing his past and looking back, and the film unfolds in episodes essentially. One episode recounts his troubled youth and his dysfunctional family, his crazed mother, and his quite depressed father, and how he ended up having to live with his great aunt. Another episode recounts where he goes on a rather amusing espionage adventure in Russia, where he somehow gives his passport over to what he considers his phantom twin, and somewhere in the world, this individual is living his life and under his identity. And then finally, he recounts his his time at university and the love of his life and the one that got away, essentially, Esther, who basically haunts him to this very day. The way the film unfolds is rather intriguing. Instead of saying, since obviously it's Paul who's recounting this story, instead of saying I did this and I did that, he addresses himself in the third person, almost in an anthropological way, telling a story and saying how this group of people did this and this and this. And it's like it was kind of an interesting way of approaching the story, and it's almost like a certain level of detachment. And you are left to wonder just how much of this is he embellishing, because he's not saying it's like I did this, I did this. Like no, Paul did this, Paul did that. But there's no reason to say that there's like anything wrong with what he's saying. It's a very interesting life that he led back in his youth. Um, the bulk of the story, the bulk of the film, once it settles down, is really about his time in university and his on again, off again relationship with Esther. They seem like a strange pairing, but for some reason they just seem to be perfect for each other. But circumstances as they were, the life that he was living and the goals that he wanted to do, that just the timing just didn't seem to work for these two. But like star-crossed lovers, their paths just kept crossing, but for some reason they kept getting pulled apart. And it's a rather complex relationship where Paul's best friends start getting caught up into the mix and really mucking up the works in many more ways than one. That it becomes a rather troubling relationship that essentially will haunt him for the rest of his life. The performances are very strong throughout. Matthew Almeric is great as the elder Paul, and his voiceover work is really telling, and it really draws you into the story as it's being performed by the younger versions of himself. Quentin Dolmer plays the younger Paul, and Roy-Lecollinet plays Esther, who both of them are fantastic. They're really good, and they're first timers too. And I think the two of them really got a future ahead of them. Uh, Lou really gives a nice rounded performance as Esther. She's a very complex woman, a young woman. She basically understands her place in the world and her effect on men, but she's troubled when she's really trying to hold on to what she thinks she wants, but her character gets in the way and starts pushing away what she so much desires. And on the flip side, Paul, young Paul, who really has his hopes and dreams of what he wants to do, but he wants his career, but he also wants Esther, and he starts having trouble jumbling those two together. And as the film progresses, that they're being pulled apart. Every time they meet and every time they get set apart, things just get worse and great, worse and great. It's a complex and engaging relationship that Desplechin really nicely explores. Desplechin co-wrote the film with Julie Perry, and it's a nicely done romantic drama that really explores one man's regrets and memories of his youth. It's basically something that many people, including myself, can relate to because at my age, 45, there's many things I can look back upon and think it's like, wow, what if I did something differently? What if things went this way? How would it have been? Or that if I stayed in touch with this person, would they still be around now? Things like that, or that one mistake that I wish I hadn't done. It's a very relatable and engaging and haunting tale that that once it ends, I found myself contemplating and in a rather like about things in the past. And then again at that time, that's when I suddenly found myself thinking about my way. So Desplechin's very compelling, very relatable memoir about a man's youth. I would have to give 4 stars out of 5. 4 stars out of 5. It's well performed, well written, well directed, very engaging, at times funny, at times heartbreaking, and it's a really, really well made film. So definitely worth checking out. And if you have the opportunity, I would say make it a double feature and watch My Sex Life and follow it up with My Golden Days, so you get a more well-rounded appreciation of Paul Daedalus and his life. So, My Golden Days, 4 stars out of 5. If you like this review, please hit that like button below. Have you heard of My Golden Days? Have you seen other Desplechin films? Or are you a fan of Matthew Amalric? Please comment below and let me know. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do, so you can stay on top of my reviews as they come in. So, until next time, we'll see you at the movies.